YouTube, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. It is going to be another relatively short one because if you haven't seen in the news this past week, then I think it'll take very brief moments to explain exactly why nothing happened last week down here in the state of Texas. But before we get into that, remember, if you like this video, please consider liking it down below. It really helps me out, and I truly appreciate it. If you enjoy this content or any of the other content that I post to this channel, please consider subscribing if you're not already. And two, I would still love to read comments down below, so if you have any thoughts after this episode is over, leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. But for now, let's go ahead and jump on into this quick, very quick version episode video covering this past week where not a lot really happened. But yes, welcome back to my channel. We have a very interesting week to talk about, and kind of necessarily looking forward is not always the most clear right now as well. So for those of you who didn't know, this past week down here in Texas, we had the worst winter storm I think I've seen in almost 100 years. Most of the state was without power, some of the state was without water, and it was a very hectic time trying to exist down here in south central Texas, to say the least. It started out on Monday. Monday was actually okay, for us at least. That was definitely when the weather started to turn south for the most part, but luckily we were okay on Monday. But then Tuesday is kind of when it really started to rear its ugly head. We were without power effectively all of Tuesday. I think we had it for a 30 to 45 minute stint later in the day, but for the most part we were out without power for most of Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday we had it back for about an hour and a half in the evening, and through about a 4-hour stretch from about 4 in the morning to 8 in the morning the next day. We luckily did have water throughout most of this, although very low water pressure. But hey, some water is better than no water, right? And then that brings us to Thursday, where we did manage to have power for most of the day. There was a couple of flickers on and off here for 30-minute stretches, but for the most part we actually did have power most of Thursday. And then from then on we went to bed with power on Thursday, and thankfully, and I'll knock on my desk here, haven't had any issues since, and it doesn't look like we're going to at this point. It is currently Monday morning. I'll break the immersion here a little bit. It's currently Monday morning, and it is crazy to think that a week ago it was, sub-freezing temperatures, and most of the state was without power and water. And I believe yesterday it was back to 75 degrees and sunny. So it is very different, the dichotomy between just what 7 days can make. But unfortunately, as nice as the weather is now, it also means that last week I didn't get to do anything anyway. I remember in the last episode I talked about still not feeling 100% personal physically, and this week actually gave me a pretty solid chance to kind of rest up and recover a little bit more. When you don't have power, you don't really do a lot on your normal day-to-day, so it was a nice another extra little break. What of course this does do is, I'm not going to bring up the calendar or anything because I'm still trying to figure out what to do with that, but this couple of weeks has been a nice break, but at the same time I do need to get back on track, and this week I'm planning on doing that. I haven't run since I made my trip home to visit my family a couple of weeks ago. We got back and then immediately had a very bad winter storm, so that was less than ideal, to say the least. Snow on Valentine's Day is not what you're expecting most years, especially down here in Texas. So this week I haven't fully gotten to figuring out exactly what's going to happen this week. I think it may be some form of just getting out and running. I may look at the calendar for a bit of inspiration, but I'm still working on reworking that a bit to reaccommodate this unexpected couple of weeks of not running. So I think this week may just be a week to kind of get back into the flow of things, and hopefully we'll see that next week in next week's episode. I don't know if even by next week I'll have the calendar figured out. Losing 2 to 3 weeks in a 12-week plan. You're losing a quarter of your training schedule for that 12-week plan. So I think this first half marathon training is going to be kind of thrown out the window. So I think at the end I still want to run that half marathon, but it definitely is probably not going to be up to the standard that I was trying to set for myself when this whole 2021 started. But for the most part, I think that's kind of the plan this week. I keep this episode relatively short because it's our coupleth in a row. It would be our third in a row of not running, but I missed an upload when I had to make my my trip back home. So not a lot has happened in the last few weeks. I'm really trying to get back into it, and hopefully the weather and personal health comply with that. So next week will probably look fairly light, and then hopefully I'll have some form of semblance of a plan going forward. But for now, I think we'll wrap it up there. I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead. I hope my week also goes better than the last couple, and I hope your training has its ups and downs as well, but you're have the strength to push through it, just like I'm trying to over here. But for now, once again, I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I will see you guys next week.